somebody who has 10 years of experience. You pay them for the time and for the experience they've earned, not just what the role is, carved out to pay. And I think we're starting to understand that.
Unless they have equity, you can't expect an employee to care about the company as much as the owners care about the company.
How do you know when is the best time to start hiring? I'm not a graphic designer, I'm not a creative strategist, decent at CRO, but like I want to bring in the pros at that point to where it's like, all right, I need a 20, 30, 50% lift somewhere. I've already gotten it here. You have to take it here now.
Welcome back to season 3 of Chew on This. It's been hell of a quarter already, and we have a lot of insights to share. So let's get right into it. As we've scaled and as we've grown just in this past quarter alone and coming into what some people like to call Q5, one of the big things we've been working on is team cultivation, morale, figuring out what we need, figuring out how to grow the team, sustain the team, and we've learned a lot. Let's jump into just like how we've even identified that it's time to grow instead of just doing it all.
Yeah, I think what's crazy is that I think if viewers have kind of watched the past episodes, every single operator we've spoken to has had very key ideologies on how to hire quick, fire fast. And that was something that we just like didn't do properly, right? I think we've always found gaps where we're like, okay, well, we need somebody to fit this position or this position. And we've always honestly gone like the cheaper route. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, we're scared to invest the money and scared to like, really invest in talent, just because it's like, it contributes to overhead and you want to stay lean and as possible. But what we've realized is that it's tough to see the results when you don't hire the right people, right? And so over the last, I guess, year, we've really saw that kind of come into fruition where, for me, there was a couple spots or a couple gaps where I needed help on expanding the marketing team. And for those positions, it was like around influencer, around affiliates, things like that. And I didn't have the time to, manage relationships on a day-to-day basis. I had the strategy in my head, but having somebody that's personable, having somebody that can cater to hundreds, if not thousands of influencers at some point, that's a key skill that you need that you can't find in anybody. And so I think the strategy that we went in with, which honestly is the wrong one, is found somebody who was kind of like, had a good personality, thought, that they could manage these things, but you have to understand the entire strategy behind it. Mm-hmm. Like it's not just about being personable and talking to influencers. It's understanding what's supposed to drive revenue for the business. It's understanding the overall funnel, how everything fits into, getting somebody their package, getting them to post. What are they posting about? Briefing them on the right elements of what's going to sell the product. This way that it translates to more eyeballs for my paid media and things like that. So it's tough, in my opinion. I think we've always gone the cheaper route. And I think now we've learned that what you pay is what you get.
Yeah. I think what we were always doing, we were hiring almost staff roles that we kind of micromanaged. And what we really needed to move the needle was to have or hire somebody that actually just takes it and goes, and you're not still creating the entire strategy around it. And I know you've said that a couple of times where it doesn't even make sense because you're still doing the work. So I think that part of it is we need to find people who are free thinkers and who have ideas that we don't. And honestly, that's all we need is just more ideas coming onto the table.
Yeah. I think even just creating ads, right? After 5 years, it's like, how many angles can you possibly think of, right? Mm-hmm. That's why it's like having somebody that can bring you fresh ideas, can actually, like you said, take it and go and just be self-sufficient is so important, because if you're still micromanaging or you're still like, okay, well, I think you should do it this way, I think you should do it that way, are you really out of the weeds then?
Yeah, I think it's like the other tricky part is like, given our backgrounds and history, we've always operated as like us three, maybe plus or minus 1 or 2 people, right? And so like, I also think what's been interesting to learn is we don't really know how to cultivate additional leaders. I think we're really good at knowing what we want done and where we need help. And that's why I think we've always transpired to find like freelancers and agencies and whatnot, because typically what those people are doing are carrying out our vision, right? And I think where I think gotten to learn here is you'll pay for what you get, and you will never get a visionary at the price of a staff. And I think we've always expected that sometimes.
It's very rare.
Yeah, it's really rare. And so I think now that we go into it, each person or each agency or freelancer that we're hiring, I think we're really have gone to the route of here's how much needle they actually have to move for us to be able to say this makes sense. Versus like, hey, yeah, come and start here. Almost like you're treating everyone like an intern and just seeing what they blossom into. I think you can do that when you're early stage. We're no longer like a startup. We're a 5-year-old company. And so we need the people that's going to come in with their own expertise. And I remember this one quote, and I can end, it was, you pay me for the time that I've worked, not for the time that I'm going to work, or something like that, where it's like somebody who has 10 years of experience, you pay them for the time and for the experience they've earned, not just what the role is, carved out to pay. And I think we're starting to understand that.
Yeah.
Unless they have equity, you can't expect an employee to care about the company as much as the owners care about the company.
Yeah.
And I think in the beginning, we did expect that, as in like, hey, why aren't you all about this? But it makes sense. If you don't pay them the appropriate salaries or the amount that it takes to care about the company, then they're just not going to.
Yeah. How do you know when is the best time to start hiring? I have my answer, but I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah, I think for like when I looked at it was when we felt like, or when I felt like I don't know enough to move my own needle. I believe my talent is up to XYZ, but to go beyond that, I either have to learn, which I don't have the time right now. I don't have the time to go back to class or even consume other podcasts where they're teaching certain things. I don't have the time to learn, which means then you have to hire. And I think you have to self-identify like, oh, I'm just not as good as I used to be, and the market's changed for what it needs to be. So I either am going to go and spend time learning it, or I'm going to go and spend the money to hire for it.
Yeah. I think for me, it's like once I stop or I hit this plateau and I can't push any further, right? It's like, okay, I need the expertise of somebody else to come in, fresh ideas, this and that. And that's why it's like when, even with the ad account, like I don't trust anybody in there. I don't think we've gone through several great ones that people know about. I just don't feel comfortable giving that up. Everything outside of that, I'm not a master in, right? I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not a creative strategist. I'm decent at CRO, but like I want to bring in the pros at that point to where it's like, all right, I need a 20, 30, 50% lift somewhere. I've already gotten it here. You have to take it here now, right? So I think similar to yours, but just knowing what you're good at and what you're not and filling that gap is, I think, what you feel that's probably the time.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I think mine's a total me problem, where I'm a craftsman. So anytime I encounter a problem, my first instinct is not, oh, I don't know how to do this, let me go hire for it. It's always, I'm just going to figure this out now. And the problem with that is I'm wasting a lot of time doing that, where I could probably pay somebody and they could go do it. And then it's, that time is a lot more valuable to me. But I think I'm in the mode where nobody has proven me wrong, as in we've hired, and the hires have not really all worked out in my department. But it's more like what we were talking about earlier is we really haven't spent on that department in general. So I'm sure, and I'm not, the most creative person in the world. I'm not the best designer in the world. There's a ton of talented designers on Twitter, online, but they cost money. I think we are getting to a point where we've kind of realized that this almost cheapening out system is not going to work, and we're going to have to spend money to get that quality.
What are some prerequisites you think that as founders we need to have before we start actually hiring?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think number one is if you yourself are not organized, like if you don't follow a calendar, you don't use a task management software, you don't have a place where you take notes.
All right, man.
If you fall under,
if you're still using Apple Notes,
like if you are in any way going about it like Ankit does, right? Then I think that's where, and I sadly, I actually think like we all are in fault of some parts of it. Like
100%.
Like I take notes, but then like I use like 3 different softwares to take notes. And like the only thing I think I do well is I live by my calendar, right? I think for you actually use your notes and you're like organized and stuff like that. And I think for you, I don't know where your mental capacity is, but everything's in your head. And so I think the problem is we also have 3 different styles of like how we manage ourselves.
Yeah.
And so when you have like a team of 3 co-founders, it's also tough to build a system to follow, because you go and implement the system, but let's say 2 people in leadership doesn't follow it. It's really hard to go and carry it out because you will have to be the role model too.
Yeah.
But we're at such a high level of performance and performers that we're not going to go and change so there's a system that can work. So I think that's been a really tricky part that I don't think we've figured out a solution. I'd love to hear in the comments for anyone listening, like if you guys have figured out like where you have multiple sets of people that are different, how do you still build a system? And maybe the answer is discipline, right? You just have to have discipline to embed it and whatnot. But then it's like, how much do you push discipline which can eventually sacrifice, quality of work? Because if I just go and do something because I have to, but it's breaking my system and the way I do good work, that's also not good. So I don't know if I don't think I answered your question, but it's like, it's tricky because it's like, I don't know if we've figured that out.
No, I agree. I think the answer to the question is like, have your shit together before you hire somebody, right? Because also at the other side of this is that you hire somebody, you don't give them enough attention or direction, and then they fail.
Yeah.
And then a couple months down the line, you're like, this isn't working out, but is it not working out because they didn't do a good job or because you didn't do a good job?
That's right.
And I do feel, unfortunately, we've had some of those employees where it's like, we just don't have the capacity to help you grow. Yeah. And so probably best for both parties if split ways, right?
Yeah. The other thing is because we're all like so segregated in our crafts, we've also haven't really understood what other employees may need to feel empowered, right? I think like, we've done our fair share of like team bonding. We've done our fair share of like celebrating birthdays and this and that. But if you think about beyond that, right, we don't have like an onboarding day. We don't have a training day where we sit down and teach you about the products and the branding and the history of Obvi and all the important parts. Like we kind of like, hey, welcome to the team. These are the tasks you have to get started on today. And by the way, the products here are on the wall. Just make sure you read the labels, And I think it's like, that's amazing because we can move so fast and figure out how people are going to fail really fast. But I definitely think one thing I look back is like, we never created a system to really empower people to maybe succeed better. People have succeeded here well, and we have people who've worked with us for 4.5 years now. So there are people who've been able to navigate through the system we have, but it's definitely not made for the general public.
Hey guys, we're gonna take a quick break from the episode to analyze some of our top performing ads in our ad account. A lot of people have been asking me, what have you been running, statics, videos? Well, I'm gonna show you our top performing ads utilizing a platform called Motion, which pretty much analyzes all the data of all of our top performing creatives ROAS, by spend, by CTR, CPCs, everything. So check it out. Today we are going to be reviewing another ad that has done pretty well over the last 14 days in our testing account. So let's get into it. This one's really interesting because this one's actually AI generated. So we wanted to make an analogy that our product helps melt fat just like it melts butter, right? Or it's melting like butter, right? So we were trying to get some type of imagery of butter melting, and it's not easy to get something like that, right? You can't just go and set up a shoe and light something on fire, or you can. This preference was to use AI, but basically what we did was we gave AI a prompt that said, "I need butter literally on fire melting," and this is what it gave us back. So we are matching up the imagery with our main headline. It's like melting butter. And then we have our second headline, which kind of closes a loop on what's this referring to. And it's our product, which is clinically proven to lose 30 pounds in 90 days. So if you are trying to expand your marketing efforts by creating more creatives in the hopes to achieve, creative diversity, kind of avoid creative fatigue, and you want to test more, I highly suggest leveraging AI. Because this actually did pretty well. This is the first test of utilizing AI. Typically, we see a higher ROAS on our ads, but this spent around $2,000, made a 1.2x. Anything above a 1 for us to get initial data shows us that we're going in the right direction. Decent click-through rate. CPC is okay. I would say test it out, utilize AI, and leverage it to get some imagery that you may not be able to get by yourself, and add some context, add your product, and see how it goes from there. So definitely try out AI and let us know how it goes. If you're looking to sign up for Motion, click the link in the description for a special offer today.
Now, let's get back to the episode.
I'd love to know, though, are other brands that are our size implementing this system, or are they kind of just doing what we're doing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think it goes to like so many brands are like, everyone likes to say, "Oh, I'm lean," right? And sometimes you're just lean because you don't know how to fatten up, right? Like you could, there are people who eat shit and do like everything they can and they just stay lean, right? And like it just works for them. And so sometimes the counter argument is like, even if you recognize you need growth or need to hire, maybe like the way this company is supposed to be and this brand is supposed to be is just lean. Yeah. We've had like in this first quarter, we've had almost 30% turnover. And I hate to say it, but I feel like numbers and our focus has gotten better.
Yes.
Right. Which is crazy to think like we've lost 30% of our team. We were great people and did great work, but the impact didn't move the needle. And if you look at the inverse of it is we've gotten leaner. We feel like everyone's focusing more on like less handling of people and more management of what they need to do and do their job better. And it's just like this weird dichotomy.
It forces you to get things done more efficiently, like, or at least focus on the things that actually matter now, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of trying to, and maybe this just might just be us, and I'm curious what you guys think, but like, if I have to worry about the other employees like getting their stuff done, like, is it taking away from my time? Are they actually moving the needle? Am I trying to help them move the needle when the needle probably just can't be moving by 100%. That person, right? So I agree. I feel the same way. I think it sucks to say this, but after we kind of leaned up a little bit, the focus is just back. I don't know. Like it forces you to you have to do more now.
Yeah. And I mean, you guys do it better than I do, like way better than I do. I don't even, want people talking to me during the day. And it's not because, I don't like that person or I don't want to have a conversation.
It is.
It's a little bit. But it's usually because the second somebody distracts me, I have this thing where getting me back into that zone will take another hour. Yeah. And now I've lost an hour. Yeah. And it's one of those things, if I'm not if I have a list of things I need to finish, the only way those things are going to get finished is if I stop worrying about everything else. And I can only imagine if you have a team that you need to also worry about, that being a distraction.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, the other thing, a lot of people, I feel like, I've talked to like Ben at True Classic, they have like, or like if you look at like the Amazon system that they they go after, which is like they do these rapid like 3 to 5 minute meetings, and like you touch base on what's important, what's broken, and you know what needs help, and that's it. And like I feel like the systems that we've typically put into place was always kind of like trying to spoon feed somebody and help them get carried to the next step. Yeah. And that could have just been like on the fact that, again, we never learned management, right? And like now that I look at it, I'm like, damn, I used to meet with like every single person for 15 minutes, and that's like 3 hours a week. And now that 3 hours a week, I've filled in with like way more productive calls that I need to do. But I wonder if the systems that people use also affects it, you know, like Ben at True Classic, again, he had mentioned that everything they do, even just check-ins, it's all through Slack. There is no meet in a conference room because they're remote.
Yeah.
Right. And so like the other part of it, I think about like, if we were remote, would we just be able to assemble and manage team better? And then we look at like the Chew on this. You have to check.
Yeah.
And you look at like the Chew on this team, right, which is 16 people now, or 17 people, right? And it's like, wait, like I know what everyone's doing, but I'm not sitting next to them.
That's a good point. It's like I know that our employees are here, so if I need to like tap in, I can. But to your point is, if we're not together, it's like, okay, well, did this get done? Did this get done? Like you're checking in. That's a good point. Maybe there is an argument for remote.
Well, we have to decide.
You're
by
like
April, guys.
pretty big against it. So.
I like was pretty big against it until Chew on this.
Yeah.
And now I don't think I'm for or against
but
it.
But it forced you. It forced you to
It definitely forced it.
Yeah.
But like the system that's there now is like, if it's cutthroat. It's like if you don't do it, and I feel like remote companies have to be cutthroat. But I feel like it's so much easier to hire. That's the other problem we've also had. We're in Kearney, New Jersey, which is a shipyard. And it's like
and
it's a jail. And it's like not coastal to anything. There's no public transport here. Just the talent pool we get is like scarce. It's like, oh wow, like this person is like lives within 30 minutes. Cool. Like, you know, we like our most tenured employee drives 2 hours each way. Like that's rare. You're not gonna get that, you know. So I wonder, like, I always think about like, oh wow, we've never really been able to grow a team or hire. But then look at all the things we're up against. We're in person. We're in a shipyard. We're like never ever had management experience ever on our team. Like, how many of those pieces, if they were different, would our team be different?
I think the other thing here is like this may be like kind of robotic to say, but it's like you don't build that personal relationship when you're remote. Unless you actually meet them in person, right? It's like you have this relationship in person. Things are kind of going okay, but you're just like, nah, they'll figure it out. Whereas like if you're remote, it's like person A has done this, but not done this, not done this, not done this. And it's like, all right, plain and simple, cut.
It's all
right?
data.
You know, it's crazy though. It's I believe that too, and I think I'm in that same school of thought. But I was talking to Jimmy at Senlane, and you know, he works really closely, obviously, with his employee Caitlin, who kind of is like chief of people, I think, and does everything. And you know, they always talk about this off-site thing they do, okay? And I think they do it once a quarter, where like they literally will like rent a cabin, and like 25 of them will go to the cabin. Or they like just took a trip, I think, to like Cancun or Cabos or something like that, and they'll like I think they'll still spend the amount you would spend on rent in a year across these different off sites, but like it is 3-4 days no work, and I know Grapevine, their team, they're actually at an offsite right now, and it's just 4 days, and the entire team's there, and they just get to know each other. And I wonder, like, do you actually, across, let's say, those 12 days in a year, could you actually pick up that personal bond compared to the daily, like, I know you're here, I'm probably not going to talk to you today, but I know I can. And it's, again, I don't know, because we have nothing to compare against, but I'm just curious, like, how are so many of these companies post-COVID building massive teams? They look closer than ever, but they have no physical presence.
So given the history of just not doing well at hiring, right? The next future hire, what would you guys say you would do differently?
I think definitely pay them more for me. But I need to start looking for somebody who's better than me. Not at everything, but specific tasks that I have weaknesses in, and just kind of understanding that and being self-aware about that is the most important thing. So yeah, my thing is be self-aware and know that you're not going to be able to do everything, and that there are better people out there.
For me, I would create a program. So I would say day one, I'm going to onboard you to the brand. I'm going to show you everything about the brand. I myself am going to relearn what maybe I don't think about all day about the brand. I'm going to tell you where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. Day two, we're going to go deep into the role. So, all right, let's break down what your role is, what the expectations are, how we're going to judge you, how you can grow here, and give you a roadmap for your personal self. And then day three is where I would say, I'm going to introduce you to the entire company and show you how you're a piece to each part, because we're small enough to where you're going to affect everyone. But we're also large enough where you have autonomy on how to work. Day four, I'd probably get into working a little bit of, hey, do this task-oriented stuff. Let me see how you do, and let me give you instant feedback so that you don't find out the person can't do their job after 2 months. And then day five onwards is where I'd be like, okay, is there anything you need from me and whatnot, and really let them kind of let the leash go. I feel like that is a lot of dedication of time. But if you think about it in the long run, if you want someone to stick around a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, what is 4 days, right? And I think you have to plan for the employee, plan for the time you're going to give them, and say, this is the investment I'm willing to make. It can't just be 30 minutes or 1 hour.
Sounds good. I hope you actually do it.
That's awful.
I think for me, similar to Ankit, is I think what you should do now, if you're feeling overwhelmed, right, as an operator, I think what I would do is kind of list out every single thing that you're doing, and literally either put a check mark next to, all right, I'm good at this, and I really want to keep doing this, and X next to something that's like, could I have somebody else that's better at doing this and fill that role, and find the gaps and then fill it, right? The other advice is, find the right talent for it and invest in talent. But I think firstly, just find the gaps and then create a plan to fill it, right? I think that's what we did just recently, right? We literally restructured the team. I myself found my gaps where it's like, all right, I need to create a strategist. Boom, filled that role. Need CRO team, fill that role. Video editor, this and that, like fill those roles. And now I have a whole team around me, and I'm not doing everything. And that allows me to be more efficient, and the output increases, and you can see the output increasing. And to your point, I think having KPIs set up to ensure that a needle is being moved, I think is also very, very important, and just stick to it.
Amazing. We talked a lot about team and people. You guys can probably sense that it's been a big theme here at Obvi, and as we go into Q5 and going through the battles of Q5. But I think it's also important for you guys to know where we've been, because a lot of the episodes have been with incredible guests. We had the likes of Harley, we had Jimmy Kim, who completely crushed the email side of things. We've had, some incredible guests here, but that means you've also been probably missing a little bit about what's going on at Obvi. So I think we spent a few minutes about just like some critical updates. I know you've been finding some incredible tools that you've been using on the ad side. I know you've been playing around with a lot of the landing page side and trying to optimize a lot of the different ways that we're running performance. And then I know from my end too, like making a major switch on email SMS has been like daunting. but want to share some of these things. So let's jump in. Maybe let's get on the ad side.
Yeah. So I think last episode, Ankit and I did talk about some of the effects of retail on the D2C side, right? So a lot of the changes that we made actually coming into fruition a little bit now, right? So if you recall, we talked a little bit about how just being in retail and having that exposure, and us just even like marketing to our customers that, hey, like you can get our products for so cheap in these stores, hurts the online side, right? Some of the things that we immediately implemented was kind of toning back that marketing messaging. Not that we're not supporting our retailers, but doesn't need to be in everybody's face, right? The second thing was also launching new SKUs on the website. And then honestly just beefing up performance, launching more ads, testing new landing pages, new offers, everything, and making sure that we're actually deliberately and methodically analyzing what's working, right? So I'll talk a little bit about the ad side, right? We tested around 15 different agencies, creative agencies, right? All were amazing. Everybody came with new angles on how to sell the products, things I've never even thought of before. And going back to the hiring thing, this is where having a fresh perspective on what you're doing is super helpful, because one unlock in the ad account with some new creative is super important, right? So I think I've been tweeting recently about how many ads we're testing and how we're testing these things. But the biggest question is you guys are testing a lot. How are you even understanding what's happening, right? And so one of the biggest unlocks for me has been being able to communicate what's actually working in the ad account to the people that are actually creating the creative, right? So before, I would be the one that's in the ad account, loading the ads, seeing the data, analyzing, and kind of going back to the team and be like, yeah, this ad worked, this didn't, figure it out, right? And it's not that I know that that's not important. It's just I don't have the time to sit down, pull up the ad account in front of you, and hope you can understand what's going on with a bunch of numbers in front of you, right? So that's why we started using this app called Motion. Super visualized way of seeing data from the ad account, because you don't get all of the unnecessarily crap, right? Getting straight to the ad is the most important part. Being able to share that dashboard with our team has been super helpful, because they can actually read the data themselves. I can literally send them a report and say, hey, this is a report for Pep, this is a report for Lizzie. Here's all the ads that you've created, and literally on a chart, it'll show you, okay, here's how much something got spent, here's the revenue it brought in, here's the return. Obviously, they are able to see what, just on a chart, which are the graphics that have done well, which ones that have not done well.
You can share it easily.
I can just share it to them, right? So instead of getting them access to the Facebook account, hoping that they can actually find their actual ads, right? My naming conventions are meant for me, so it's going to be very difficult for somebody else who's never been in an ad account to find what they're looking for. Just sending them a report and literally just hey, this did well, this did not do well. Now, as a designer or a video editor, having that knowledge can help you go and iterate and create based off of actual data, knowing that the next ad you could make could be another winner. So that's why I love this powerful app. Is just even now I go in there and it's just so much easier for me to read the data, because you look at the ad account, it's just numbers, just straight up numbers.
And coming from a creative, nobody, remember those damn spreadsheets you kept
yeah,
pulling up? I didn't know what that was, and I didn't care.
when the designer doesn't want to look at it, that's when you know you have a problem.
Yeah.
But no, shout out to Motion. I mean, it's one of those apps that it just bridges the gap between media buyer, creative strategist, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and we're making better decisions now.
Yes.
So
Yep. Chew on This is sponsored by one crucial strategy that we just can't ignore as D2C brands, and that's email and SMS. We'll be sending a ton, and guess who's our go-to? We use SendLane. It's not just another tool, it's a revolution. With real-time segmentation, you're reaching users with precision when you hit send on that email or SMS. The reporting UI, you may ask? It's a breath of fresh air. Simple, straightforward, and gets right to the point. No more sitting through confusing data and random charts you have no idea about what it's saying. And here's the crown jewel, their customer support. Round the clock, weekends, holidays, 24/7, 365, always open like 7-Eleven. No exceptions. They've got your back always. If you want to elevate your email and SMS game and you're tired of what everyone in the industry is used to using, check out SendLane and see why SendLane is the name that's buzzing in everyone's ears. Dive in and you'll thank us later. Now, let's get back to the episode. We talked a lot about product launches. We're getting back into doing them because we kind of paused them initially. We were like, the inventory and supply chain was getting out of control, but we also kind of taught our customers that this is what we do. And then we just stopped doing it, right? It's like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And I think we tried to do that. And so we're getting back to what Obvi was about, which was it was fostered around innovation. It was fostered around excitement. And one of the things that I think as we do that is we've been over communicating more than ever. As we stopped innovation, things that stopped were maybe we sent out less emails, we sent out less texts, we sent out less push notifications, we went less on live with our community. We just cared less to communicate because there wasn't much to communicate. We've been obviously taking a 180. We've been emailing more. We've been texting more. Shout out to TapCard. We're actually even nominated for like the push notification brand of the year for a Tappy award. And because we've just been over communicating, we go live every week. And one of the things that we've had to do is like when we go from not communicating a lot to communicating a lot is your costs start to go up. You know, you start to send out more email, more SMS, and just more things, and you're like, all right, well, this was a shock. And I think one of the things another switch we made, which was really, really been functionally sound, not just on a cost basis, but also support and overall advancement has been we moved from Klaviyo to SendLane, and we moved our SMS from PostScript to SendLane as well. And part of it was just being able to consolidate and do everything from one place. Right, when we're sending out a new email campaign, we don't have to open up a new window, a new platform entirely to send out an SMS with the same message. Segmenting and the fact that we're saving 75% monthly costs, that's been a huge improvement as well. But what it really is doing, more than just using a new tool, it's empowering us to be able to open-mindedly just communicate more. Whereas before, I think we were like, damn, we've sent out a lot of emails this month, or we've sent out a lot of text messages. Let's relax. So I think some parts is like also empowering your brand to do what's important without it always being, is it too much or too little in costs? And then I think one other big piece that, I think if you want to touch on too, is just like the fact that like we've been able to take in data and coming out with new SKUs that are, I'm super excited for, but I think they are more aligned with what we know works.
Yeah. Our collagen infused fat burner, our collagen burn, has always been our best SKU. And then we released that Elite, which was kind of the better version of that, or the more advanced version. And those products always just rip for you.
Until Walmart.
Until Walmart. But I think it was what we talked about last episode is like staying 2 to 3 products ahead of that retailer. Yeah. So in an effort to do that, we're kind of releasing more variations on that burn product. Our Burn PM, which is kind of our nighttime fat burner formula.
You heard this here first, guys.
And then our Burn Fast, which is that one I'm really excited about because it's something new. It mimics and enhances the benefits of fasting, which is something that's really trending right now. But the great thing about these products is they're caffeine free, so we can bundle them with our existing Burn products. Which I know you're super excited about. We can, create sets and really bump up that AOV. But I think this is the innovation that is going to reignite the community. It's been a while since we've released a recent burn SKU. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I think to your point, like at least for me too, it's being able to get our AOV up on the website, right? Having gross margin. What is the gross margin on there? Like 80%.
Yeah,
So
82%.
having $100 AOV, 80% gross margins. Like I can spend way more now to acquire a customer, and that I think will take us to the next level, right? That will allow me to go from 15 to 20 to 25, 30K a day in spend, just because I'm able to even bid higher on my campaigns, right? So, and then you kind of also, at least in our world, it's like when you sell a solution, it's way better than selling a product, right? There was this, I think we're also about to test this now too, but there's, I think shout out to Sarah Levinger. She had put out a story, I think it was like last year, where it was like you're trying to sell two products that take together, I forgot for what reason, right? But the marketing behind it was they ended up selling more because all they said was take this first and then this. And it made it feel like a solution, not a product. And so I think that's what we're trying to do, where it's like, all right, take this first in the morning, then take this, then take this, right? I think there's a reason why like all these like skincare companies like Proactive do so well, because it's like you're selling a step-by-step solution. People love to be told what to do.
And routines.
And a routine. And so I think if there's any way we could implement that in our brand, I think it'll crush. So I'm excited about that. So we talked a little bit about team, right? Talked a little bit about what we've been doing and some of the things that we've kind of messed up on in Obvi and how we're fixing it. What are some takeaways you guys want everybody to kind of take back, implement into their business today?
Yeah, I think there's few from mine. I know we're only supposed to give like one chew each, but I think there's two things for me. Number one, I think if you're hiring in this climate, I think it's super, super important to have a time investment that you're going to put per person. And it could be 20 hours, it could be 5 hours, it could be 10 hours, whatever it is. But I think that's one thing I've learned is like if the next person we hire, I think we're going to go and commit an X amount of hours to go and spend time with get that person fully onboarded. And then number two, I think where we are today is probably something where we could have been yesterday. And what I mean by that is like we're talking about like bringing Obvi back and following its roots and going back to what it's working. And I think if you look at like why we had to do that is partly because I think we let sometimes too many extenuating factors or outside factors kind of make you think something is happening with the brand, or the brand needs to go a certain direction, or the brand has to grow a certain way. And, you know, you start to chase revenue, or you start to chase numbers for some outside party, and you start to make decisions that are unsustainable. And I think, you know, one thing 2024 is, you know, should be for our brand founders, and is for us at least, I think, is it's a year of being extremely selfish. We're just going to do what's best for Obvi, for our customers, for our community that, you know, just hit 80,000 members. And that's it. Nothing else matters. Doesn't matter what number we hit in revenue. Doesn't matter how much growth. Doesn't matter who we have to fire or hire. Whatever is needed for Obvi, become selfish for your brand.
Yeah, to go off of that, I think just don't take your community for granted. People think that they are these loyal customers who will never go anywhere. But the second you stop innovating, the second you stop your touch points, all that goes down the drain, and that will affect your retention. So I'm glad that we are getting back to innovating, coming out with new SKUs, going on lives more, just being more present. And yeah, my chew is just continually innovate and keep your community involved.
I'll riff a little bit more on that. If you haven't ever sent out a survey or communicated to your customer base in any other way, right? I first things first, I would say if you don't have a community, create one. Just literally go on Facebook, go to groups, create a group, right? That will always be the chew, right? But if you haven't been in contact with your customers, send everybody an email. Make it come from you as a founder and just introduce yourself, explain why you started the company, and ask for some feedback. Just ask, what is it that you're looking for out of the brand? How can we be better? And you'll be surprised what you'll end up seeing from the customers, and that could really change the trajectory of your business. So send that email. Chew on that.
Chew on all that.
Chew on that.
If you want more from us, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, and check out the website chewonthis.io.